listeners, and welcome to a brand new episode of Never Seen It. This is a podcast where we watch movies that we haven't seen yet. I'm your host this week. My name is Betsy, and with me as always is Trent.
Hey, Betsy.
It is a new month, and we just finished our most recent series, and now we're doing a series that isn't a series.
It's not a series.
It's really not. We're simply calling it Potpourri because we are going to be spending the next few weeks kind of cleaning up our watch list and prioritizing some movies that have just been on our list for so long to cover on the show. And now we're finally making it a priority to do it. They have nothing to do with each other. They're just movies that we really want to watch right now. It's summertime. It is hot. It is too hard to make a plan sometimes.
There you go.
So to begin, we are going to be doing a movie that I have seen, that Trent hasn't, that we have talked about in our personal lives. On the show occasionally it has come up, but we have never sat down to actually watch it in all the years we've been together. It is from 2005, Brick by Rian Johnson.
And we have covered two other Rian Johnson movies on this podcast so far. The only other movie that we haven't really talked about, which I literally just looked at his IMDb page to find out what other movies that he's directed, it was The Brothers Bloom that he wrote and directed himself. But that is based on a different property. Now, we have watched both Knives Out movies. The second one we actually covered at the end of, last year? The year before? The year before.
Yeah, whenever it came out.
Yeah.
Whenever Glass Onion came out.
And we've seen his Star Wars movie, which we really like. We covered Looper, I think, just last year. And everything we have watched so far of Rian Johnson is something that we really enjoy. So I know you have seen Brick. I haven't. I really didn't know anything about it up until I just watched a trailer for it, and it's really intriguing me because I feel like there is something there that really screams Rian Johnson, but maybe isn't there yet. So I'm really curious to see what his first movie is, and maybe see if I can pick out the tropes of movies that he has done in the future.
See his style as it is developing.
Yeah, and in 2005... we were both, about 20 years old. And I think Rian Johnson isn't much older than us.
Yeah, I think he's only a little bit older than us.
A few years, maybe.
A few years, certainly. And I actually saw this movie when it was relatively new. It was the joy of being in college when you had a friend who was also a cinephile. There were two people in my dorm. If you wanted to watch a movie, you'd come to me or you'd go to him because we had the most movies of anybody in that building. And so he would even introduce me to different movies. And this was one of them. I didn't know who Rian Johnson was. I didn't know anything about Brick. So he was like, this movie's really cool. And I watched it. And it's one that I think took me a couple of watches to really appreciate. But once I kind of was like, okay, I know what this movie is. I freaking love this movie. It's really, really good. It's just not one that I think to put on all the time because based on the trailer, Trent, you now have a sense of what this movie is.
Yeah.
Explain to our viewers from your gleaning of the trailer what this movie is about.
It seems like it's a weird, noir mystery or a crime drama of some kind, but it's also starring high school students, or at least, actors playing high school students, of course. Joseph Gordon-Levitt being one of them, probably the only person I'm going to know in this movie.
I think there will be a few people you recognize, but
okay, fine.
not anybody.
Nothing that I gleaned from the trailer.
No, not anybody that's become like a major superstar or anything.
Which is kind of strange because I had just watched a video of Joseph Gordon-Levitt on I think he was on Good Morning America recently, and I haven't seen the man in a good long time in anything. And yeah, dude has aged. And I'm not saying that as a slight to him or anybody else who has, aged like we have, but yeah, I just haven't seen his face a lot. And the things that we have quote unquote seen him in, it's just been a very, very short voice. He was in both of the Knives Out movies, but just as a very short voiceover.
Well, that's the thing about this relationship. Rian Johnson and Joseph Gordon-Levitt go back 20 years to this movie.
Yeah.
And they have participated together in, I think, every Rian Johnson project, small or big.
Right.
He has found a way to squeeze Joseph Gordon-Levitt into his movies somehow. So this is the start of that relationship, and they are still at that place where they want to work together.
Was he in the Star Wars movie? I don't
bet
remember.
he is.
I'm sure he is.
I'll bet he's got they threw him in a stormtrooper costume, or he's got a voice just in like a tiny fragment, because that's literally all it is in Knives Out and Knives Out Glass Onion.
Yeah, we're going to have to look that up when we're done here.
But yeah, to say the least, that is something that has come out of this movie. But I know that you really don't know what this movie is other than what you just saw in the trailer.
Yep.
So we're going to go and watch it. We're going to see Brick, and we'll be right back. And we are back. That was Brick from director Rian Johnson. Trent, did you solve the mystery?
No.
Okay. Did you like the movie?
Okay. This is the reason why we wanted to watch this movie is not just because, hey, we heard it was a good movie, or I heard that it was a good movie. You had seen it before, so you very much wanted me to watch this. And we haven't had any conversations about the movie, just so that everybody's clear here. But I really wanted to watch this movie just to see Rian Johnson's first foray into making his own movie that he wrote and directed. And I'll say this was a hard watch for me because I was not expecting it to go this hard into the crime noir. Like, after I watched the trailer, okay, I figured this is going to be a noir crime tale, and that's interesting to me. He likes his crime stuff. Just by evidence in what happened with the two Knives Out movies, those movies were expertly crafted. I understood everything by the end of both of those two movies. And I could see by the end of this one, there's this seed there that he really, really wants to be a good storyteller. Not just filmmaker, but a storyteller. That is what's really at the heart of any good filmmaker, is a good storyteller. And I could see it here. But it's just not all the way there yet, because I still think that he's finding his voice. I still think that maybe, like, the phrase that kept on coming to mind here is that he was just a little bit too big for his britches. Honestly, that's the thing that was ringing in my brain.
Listen, this is an incredibly ambitious idea for a first film.
For a first movie, absolutely.
And he is doing something like, I can't think of another movie that is like this, where it is, you've seen movies before where they take an idea and it's like, but what if we put it in high school? Okay, we've done that before. But I can't think of another example of where somebody is like, we're going to do like an honest to God 1940s detective story in the way they speak, in the way they dress. Like, it is fully leaning into that.
Even the
in high
body
school.
language is very much here. Now, I'll say this. The one other movie besides like a Sin City that is like dripping with the noir feel, it's even in black and white. The one other movie that I thought of that was this very much is evoking was the 1990 whatever Romeo plus Juliet. Because it is a bunch of high schoolers talking in this Shakespearean way.
Elevated language.
Elevated language, and you don't see anywhere else, but they're still high school kids. You get what I'm saying?
I suppose. That one's a little bit more of a stretch, but I understand the comparison.
But it's the two things melded together.
Yeah. Where would you say you felt about this? Like, you didn't get it? Like, this is something you'd have to watch multiple times to, like, track, because it is a lot of information that you're trying to absorb? Or did you not actually enjoy it because you were just so confused?
Just to kind of pull back the curtain here, I had to stop this movie a couple of times to ask Betsy, okay, let me get this straight. This, like, in my own language, in the English language, let me see if I understand what's going on.
Translate.
And I think I got it for the most part. Maybe 85 to 90%, I got it. But I needed to get the clarification from Betsy, because you've seen this movie multiple times.
I have, but like I said in the intro, you have to. I think this is a movie that bears repeating. You have to watch it a few times to really get used to the way they are talking and to follow what the story is. Because not only are they speaking in this really specific kind of language, everything is slang. You said it multiple times. Nobody is saying what they're saying.
Yeah, everybody's
they're dancing
saying,
around it.
Yeah, everybody's saying exactly what they mean, but in a way that only they can understand.
Yeah.
Which, okay, me coming at this for the first time, I have to really kind of slow it down and maybe go back a couple of times to really hear what they're saying. I feel like if I watched this movie again, but with subtitles, I would have gotten a lot more. You know, because this is a first time movie, this is a first time recording people's dialogue, first time filming people, and some of these actors are maybe not as seasoned as maybe you would like. And maybe you couldn't afford to do more takes, so you couldn't afford to keep people on set for that long. The movie just is what it is. So if I could go back and watch this with subtitles so that I could get every piece of dialogue here, I think I would have had a much better time. That's not to say that I did not enjoy this movie. I think it is very impressive for a first-time filmmaker. And like I said, there are seeds here of the Rian Johnson that we would see later on, down to the fact that he keeps bringing these actors back, including one of those guys that is on screen in every one of his movies.
Dode, that actor.
The Dode guy,
He is the one who shows up on screen in every one of his movies. He is the rando wandering around the island during Glass Onion.
Yes.
Because they're like high school friends or college roommates or some shit.
Something like that, yes. And if you did that with Joseph Gordon-Levitt, I think it would be a lot more distracting because he is a much bigger name.
Yes, he was already famous in 2005.
Absolutely.
So it's a little too much of a distraction to have him prevalently featured. But I did actually forget that guy was in this movie.
I was thinking about it. I was wondering when he was going to show up.
But the second he showed up and I saw his face, I was like, oh, it's this guy. I forgot we also had to have him involved.
Yeah.
But yes, I said in the beginning, this one, I liked it the first time I watched it, but it really took me a few watches to really get it. And I still struggle, like even today, because I haven't seen this movie in a number of years.
I'm sure.
I'm trying to tap back into, okay, wait, how does this movie work? What's going on here? And you've got people who are playing different archetypes. You've got the informant, and you've got the femme fatale, and you've got the kingpin, and you've got the principal, or the assistant principal, who's the representative of like the chief of police.
Yeah, he's basically the cop, and Brendan is the informant for the cop. He's the criminal informant that is keeping himself out of jail by ratting on other people.
But this is all coming so fast and in a language that is completely foreign to us in 2024, especially, but also in 2005, 2006 when this came out, that it's really like just sensory overload.
Yeah,
You're just trying to figure out, number one, what the hell are they all saying? And number two, what's actually happening? Because it's a fucking mystery. Like it starts and he discovers Emily's body and then it jumps back 2 days. And then he's just like going around to different people. And I'm like, wait, who is this? Who is that? Why is he talking to them?
And it is kind of set up here as, okay, this is a whole thing that is going to be set up at high school. And of course, this is what I'm thinking. So maybe all of these quote unquote kids are just kids and they're just tied up into this thing. But no, all of these people are all acting much, much older and more mature than what they're actually depicted as. And it just keeps on going down that rabbit hole, as it were. And I had to get beyond that before I could really start to buy into the movie.
Yeah, you really have to let go of what a high school movie in 2005 was, because that's not what this is. It just happens to take place in high school. So that's why I'm saying it's an ambitious movie from Rian Johnson. Like, it is really creative and it is leaning hard into his intelligent muscle. Like, we've talked about this many times. Rian Johnson is a really smart filmmaker. He makes really creative, interesting choices. And to come on screen the first time and this is what you do, it's really hard to ignore that he was at least going for it. He was trying something.
And that's why I keep on going back to he's maybe a little bit too big for his britches here, because his elevated way of putting this dialogue on screen is maybe meant for somebody who has a lot more experience in making the films, and maybe the experience of these actors is not enough for them to portray or to convey what exactly he wants to say here. And that's just a long-winded way for me to say I wish he could have had another shot at this. If Rian Johnson of 2025, let's say, decides I want to remake my own movie, I want to remake Brick, this could be one of the best movies of all time, because there is this elevated language. There is this noir feel. Like, you could literally just put this movie in any time and it would work. The only thing that dates the movie is the fact that Joseph Gordon-Levitt uses a cell phone once. Every other time he's at a phone, it's at a payphone.
Yeah.
So again, you could basically set this in any setting, in any time, as long as there's access to a payphone. And that's very impressive. You're not using technology as a crutch. You're not using technology to advance the story. The fact that he's on a cell phone means nothing. You could have put a payphone at the school and that would have worked too.
To expand on your philosophical idea here, if he remade this movie now, would you want him to still set it in 2005? Because it doesn't work now.
It doesn't matter.
I think it does matter, because if your whole thing is technology, cell phones would be everywhere if he made it now, set now.
You don't need it though. You don't need it,
but I'm just saying, like, all the mystery of meet at this corner. Everybody keeps telling him to meet at this same phone booth on this weird intersection.
Yeah.
And they're calling that phone number from another phone booth.
Sure, and I understand that. And just the lack of payphones in general.
That's
in
what I'm saying.
2024, you couldn't do that.
No.
So I get what you're saying there.
So would you, if he wanted to do this again, in your thought experiment, would it be exactly the same circumstances except plus 20 years of him as a filmmaker?
I think, yes, you would just remake it as it is, and then you would have more seasoned actors portraying these same characters. And I'm kind of racking my brain here as to whether or not I want it to be set in high school. I think the high school thing works because it fucks with your brain that these like 18-year-old, 17-year-old kids are talking in this way and acting in this way, because we got a fucking mafia don in his den with a cane and all, but in reality, he's just messing around in his basement and his mom is making him cookies.
Correct.
That's amazing.
Correct. That scene's fucking hilarious, because it's like he's just sent his thug after this guy, and then they lock him in the basement for a while and beat him up. And then after he calms down, he invites him to breakfast, and mom is like trying to find the juice. Yeah. And it's so awkward and strange. But it's a great scene. And that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. So you're saying that this could be a brilliant movie. I think this is a brilliant movie. I'm gonna choose to completely discard everything you just said.
Fine,
I'm gonna disagree with you, and I'm gonna account that to the fact that I felt kind of like you did the first time I watched this.
I'm sure, and because this is just my first time, I have to trust that you know better than I do because you've seen it so many times, and that's why I'm going to agree with you and say, yes, it is brilliant, but I just need more of it.
Yeah, I think you have to see this movie a few times to get a feel for the world, follow the language. You kind of have to run it through your own translator.
Absolutely.
And you have to get through it once. So you go, okay, so that is Tug, and that's the Pin, and that's Emily, and that's Laura, and that's Brad.
And by that point,
she's with him and he's with her.
You know everybody's motivations. You know everybody's background. You got
know the big
basics.
Reveals, the twists.
Yeah, you got the basics. You know the timeline. So you can come into it with knowing eyes, and then you can pinpoint exactly where things are occurring. That would be a lot more. I mean, it would have been a better watch if I had already watched it. Which, I mean,
which for this show totally makes sense.
I mean, the nature of the show is that I'm reacting to exactly what I just watched, and this is an honest reaction. I had no idea what this movie was about, but you did. So you're saying that you had the same kind of reaction that I did just now, and after you saw the movie a couple of more times, what were your reactions then?
So yeah, the first time I was definitely a little bit confused because there are some moments where they're just introducing characters and they're breezing past the introductions. and the knowledge of who they are and what their motivation is. And then they get to the plot where it's like, it's called Brick because it's all about drugs.
Yeah.
Like there's a whole element of drugs that takes, I don't know, half hour, 45 minutes to get to. Like,
yeah, it doesn't reveal itself right away.
No, because the setup is Emily is his ex-girlfriend. She asks him for help and she goes missing. But we already know from the first shot of the movie, she's dead. So she's dead, and then we work our way backwards. She asks for help. They used to be together. And then somewhere along the way, we find out that there's this drug ring and a kingpin and dealers, and we're trying to figure out who killed Emily, what happened to the other brick of the drugs. There's a kid in a coma. There's an informant. So it's so much information.
Yeah, and they're even referring to people that are completely off screen.
Or that you never meet.
That you never meet, yeah. So when you watched it for the first time, was it like me in that you saw it and sat with somebody who had already seen it?
No. I think I actually watched this by myself.
Oh, okay.
I think someone who had already seen it, that I trusted their opinion of movies, said, this movie is great and you should watch this movie. And so I did. I borrowed it from him. I watched it and I was like, okay, I think I liked it.
Did you have a conversation with him after the fact?
It was like 20 years ago, like I fucking remember.
Okay.
You were pressing too hard on that part of it. But I remember I didn't really get it, but I didn't dislike it. And then I watched it again and I'm like, okay, I understood what he was trying to do better.
Yeah.
And I think it's just knowing the story and knowing who everybody is. And maybe it's also just having had an opportunity. Like, I have not watched a lot of these hard-boiled detective movies from the 1940s, but I've seen more movies that are an homage to that. I've seen a few of them in my later years as I've experienced more films. And then I can draw the line, the through line, to see, okay, he is being inspired by other movies and putting his completely unique lens on it. And he does some really interesting things with the camera, with the lighting. There is some directing happening in this. But you really have to get over that hurdle of, I don't know what the fuck anyone is saying in this movie. Because even today, because I haven't watched this in a few years, I was getting a little overwhelmed because I forgot how florid the language is and how nobody says what they're saying.
And it's so frantic. You can't
fast.
You can't sit with what people are saying because they're already moving on to the next topic.
No, it's like a fucking shotgun, like machine gun dialogue. That is something so quintessential to this kind of film. It's so hard to just process. And then you're right. Then we move on to the next thing. And there were a few times where you're like taking notes and you're not looking at the screen. And I'm like, Trent, I need you to go back because I know you weren't looking at this.
Right.
And it's going to be important.
I was writing a note in my phone and I completely miss either the way something is shown to us or it's a piece of dialogue or they're talking about something specific that I need to know later.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're not paying fully attention to this story, it is going to completely pass you by.
And there's teeny tiny details. Like at the beginning, there is a car that drives by and somebody chucks a cigarette out. And there's this close-up shot of a cigarette. And it just feels at the beginning like, oh, that's kind of a cool shot. But it ends up being like a huge plot point later on at the end of the movie.
Right. And us talking about this, all it is doing is reminding me of Knives Out in that you have a death at the beginning of this movie. You do not know what happened to the person who died in this movie or Knives Out. The Christopher Plummer character dies at the beginning. You know he's dead, but
no secrets there.
You have no idea what happened to him, and the entire rest of the movie is figuring out how he died and who killed him.
Yeah, that movie is a whodunit. This one is more layered. It's a whodunit, but it's also a mystery of where is Emily, but it's also what's going on with the drugs, who took the drugs.
Yeah.
So it's multiple mysteries all kind of wrapped into one thing.
But you see what I'm saying here when I'm comparing these two movies. The whodunit is one portion of Knives Out. And yes, he is weaving this yarn in and out of all these different characters. And I think it's the characters in Knives Out that really make it. And I think in this movie, it's not the characters, it's not the mystery, it is kind of just the style. Really, that's what this movie is about. Because as we got towards about the halfway point, maybe 3/4 of the way through, I honestly just stopped taking notes because I just wanted to witness what was happening here, and I was just letting it wash over me. I wasn't trying to pick it apart. I wasn't taking any notes, like I said. And by the end, they did the thing that Rian Johnson likes to do. Joseph Gordon-Levitt, when they're on the field, he is recounting all of these things that happen and why he thinks that they happen in the way that they happen. He does the same thing in both Knives Out movies with the Daniel Craig character kind of reciting his understanding of how it happened and when and why. Yeah. So I was expecting in this movie that we were going to get shots of stuff that we didn't see in how Joseph Gordon-Levitt was reciting them. We didn't get that. And I think it's because maybe, it's his first time and he didn't have the wherewithal to really put it all together like that. I have no idea.
You mean how it really went down?
Yes.
Showing her with her hands in the cookie jar.
Exactly. That's what I was expecting to happen just because I've seen the rest of his movies.
But I think it's because this is more of an homage to other movies. And those kinds of movies back in the day,
they didn't have those shots.
They didn't do this. No, they did what he does in this movie where he pulls the femme fatale in close and says, "Listen here, baby doll. You done me wrong.
You done me wrong, lady."
And I'm gonna tell you how you did it. And she's like, no, it wasn't me. Single tear rolling down her face. Like, it's so close up and melodramatic. But that's how they used to do it. That's how they made movies back in the day.
And that's why I'm making the distinction between this movie and the rest of his movies. It is the style. Because he is doing this homage to these noir films, he is not making it his own like he does with Knives Out movies. This one is a straight homage to the other stuff.
But he is making it his own by setting it in high school. That is
Correct.
Is the difference. If he had just made a noir, gumshoe detective, 1940s,
smoky back rooms,
black and white, smoky jazz clubs or some shit, no one would have given a fuck. This is a boring, stupid movie. If it is just that, if it is a truly just like shot for shot kind of remake. But he decided, what is a way I can make this movie stand out from other movies? And he sets it in high school. And this was a thing that was happening a lot. And we've talked about this on the show before. In the late 90s and the early 2000s, people were like, okay, we're going to make this movie, but in high school. We're going to take that play, but in high school. She's All That. It's Pygmalion, but in high school.
Yep.
She's the Man. It's, a Shakespeare play, but in high school. What you didn't have was a detective noir, but in high school.
And the difference between those movies and this one is that there's a lot more actual high school in those movies. And again, every time we cover a movie in high school, I have to mention, these kids never go to class. There are no teachers on campus. And if they do talk to a teacher, it's just like one or two.
But I appreciated this one. They actually call that out.
Yes, they do.
Like, he basically is intentionally ditching classes because he knows he's got to get on the case. He's got to go and do something else. Or like he goes to the principal and he says, "Stay off my ass."
Right. I'm going to be gone for a couple of days.
I will help
keep
you.
Off my case. Exactly.
I will help you, but do not rat me out. Keep the heat off of my back.
Yeah. And I think it helps that this is only over the course of a couple of days, as opposed to other movies that take, a week or more to really pan out.
Or months or anything. Yeah.
Like we talk about a lot of high school movies that take place at the end of a school year. That's about a month or 2 months or 3 months in some cases.
Yeah. And they really don't address in this movie, like, even what time of the year is it? Because it's California. It all looks the fucking same. Spring, summer, fall.
No. They did say it. It's Halloween in January. That's on the invitation. Yeah.
There you go. Okay. But then you've also got like the football player who's just like recanting his story, like, "Put me in, coach. You got to put me in the game."
I have to say something here about that guy. I know him from one other thing, the football player. He was a member of the strike team on The Shield. That's the only thing I've ever seen that guy in. He was really good in that too.
Which is funny because that came out the same time this movie did. So he would have probably done this and then done The Shield about the same time.
I think he would have been in The Shield a little bit after this, but still, yeah.
But that's what I'm saying.
Yep.
Like, this movie could have gotten him The Shield.
Very possible.
All right, well, that's where we're going to take a very brief break for a word from our sponsor. We'll be right back. Feeling run down, lethargic, a little bloated?
Yes. Oh, God, yes.
Well, have I got the prescription for you?
Oh, no, not another pill. I take enough of those that I find in the dumpster behind the Burger King.
Oh, no, it's better than any dumpster pills. It's patreon.com/neverseenitpod.
I'm interested. Tell me more.
It's premium content from those jokers at Never Seen It. They have 4 other weekly shows, plus bonuses.
I've heard of those guys. They're like super talented and funny.
And sexy. Don't forget sexy.
Oh, then I'll definitely check them out. Thanks, disembodied voice.
Anytime. All right, I want to talk a little bit about the star of the movie, Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Now, we touched on it in the intro. This is a guy that has started his relationship with Rian Johnson in this movie, and they've made a number of projects together after this. But he is, in 2005, 2006, still kind of an up-and-comer. Like, he's already been famous for probably 10 plus years at this point.
Everybody saw Angels in the Outfield. Everybody knows what he's about.
But this is that interesting part of his career where he's stopping making high school movies and he's starting to making I'm a grown-up kind of movies. But this is an interesting bridge because he is in a high school movie, but he's playing an adult.
Yeah, playing a teenager, but he's very much this hardcore kind of a guy.
Yeah, and he spends this entire movie in a single costume, including like fucking business style shoes. This is like the one really specific affectation this character has that makes him stand out and look a little different than a normal high schooler. How do you feel about that little touch? Because the rest, they don't go with his outfit. Number one, he's wearing like baggy jeans and a white t-shirt and like a bomber jacket.
Yeah, and his hands are always in his pockets.
And he wears, I guess the only other thing are his glasses. His glasses don't really fit the time frame.
They don't, but I do appreciate any movie that has a main character with glasses. I think you and I can appreciate that because, hey, we've worn glasses pretty much our entire lives, and they even call it out a couple of times in this movie. The first time is when he's going to get into the fight with the football player. He takes his glasses off to receive punishment, and when he gets into the room with the pin, he doesn't have his glasses on, so we see his vision is blurry through the camera, and he asks, "Where's my glasses?" But that being said, I mean, I don't notice fashion like you do. I don't give a shit that he's wearing business attire on his feet. It really doesn't matter to me. The only time it really comes up is when he is running away from this goon who pulls a knife on him. And while he's running away, he is making all these footsteps. And when he gets like around a corner, he takes his shoes off so that he's not making noise as he's about to trip the other guy who is running after him in boots.
And I think this is a specific call out, again, to noir movies because it makes a sound when he walks. And the thing that it evokes for me is when they're walking through an empty parking lot and somebody is wearing like high heels. Like usually it's a woman in high heels and you hear the click, 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 but you hear someone else's steps. And I genuinely think they put him in these shoes just so you would always hear his footsteps. Like, honest, I don't think there's much more to it than that. To emphasize that scene in particular, but also he does a lot of running
He does.
in this movie. And it just adds a little something that maybe doesn't need to be there, but for some reason it works. I like it. It's a strange choice, but in these scenes that are otherwise so quiet, when you hear his footsteps, it is adding something.
Footsteps in general do kind of lend itself to the noir genre a lot, but like you said, it could be more the high heels of a woman, the femme fatale thing. It could also be, people in business attire, in business suits, wearing business shoes.
Because, putting him in a suit wouldn't make any goddamn sense.
No.
And the rest of the movie, that's really the only thing about his attire that I would draw attention to. But he is really committed to this character. And sometimes I can see your complaint of the dialogue where because he is spitting it out so fast, it's almost muttering it.
Yeah.
Like there are some times where I'm like, I cannot understand you because you are not enunciating this. You are just spitting the words out as fast as possible.
Yeah, and I do appreciate, especially when he's meeting with Brain for the first time, or at least pretty much every time that he meets with Brain, it's all of these very quick back and forth pieces of dialogue that they're just kind of overlapping each other, sometimes kind of like we do sometimes when we're doing this podcast. But they just have this back and forth that is very evocative of that time frame that you don't have with any other character, by the way. It's just these two people.
So yeah, Brain is the stand-in for, he's his street guy. He is the informant. He knows who sits with it. Like, I love how they frame it as, who was she eating lunch with?
Which is such a high school thing.
It is important, though. Like, you know who is with what group, what clique, who is eating lunch together, who's dating who. He is the guy that knows it all. And in a noir, it would just be a guy on the street who knows the tough guys and the gangs and the women who they're involved with.
Yeah.
But you're translating it again to high school, and it's who's she eating lunch with.
See, I would have rather them do this up a little bit more. Have more high school. Have a lunchroom scene. Have a whole bunch of extras that are just on the quad or out on the field or in the bleachers or wherever. Have it actually be in high school, except this just seems like it's an empty school. There's nobody else around.
Because he doesn't go to fucking class. He hangs out. Like, Brain is clearly some kind of a loner outcast type where he's not going to eat lunch in the cafeteria because he's going to get his ass kicked or something.
He's also busy, accumulating intelligence. But I'm going to say one thing here. I saw in the IMDb trivia a theory someone brought up on some forum back in 2005 when this movie came out. The theory is Brain doesn't exist. Brain is only in the mind of Brendan.
Because you never see him interact with anyone else?
Correct. He is talking, when he's talking to Brain, he's talking to himself. He's talking to his brain.
That would be some Rian Johnson bullshit.
But I can completely understand where they're coming from. And I think if I remember right, Rian Johnson responded to that or was asked about it, and he said that was probably one of my favorite theories I've seen of any of my stuff. Because
it's not what I meant, but I love
kind of brilliant. I really like that theory.
Well, and the fact that he's just called Brain.
Yeah.
Like, it makes sense that people would just make that leap. He's called Brain. He's always hanging out by himself. You never see him interact with literally anybody.
And at the end of the movie, he kind of comes out from behind Joseph Gordon-Levitt's head.
Out of focus.
Out of focus. You can see who it is, but you can't really see him. He kind of walks over to the right side of the screen. He says what he's going to say. Joseph Gordon-Levitt responds. He goes back, and you never see him again.
And when
it's great.
And when Joseph turns around, he's
not
gone.
There.
There's seeds of things like that you can tell Rian Johnson knew exactly what the fuck he wanted to do in this movie.
And maybe that is the stand-in for the noir narration that is normally present in these kinds of movies. I think about, again, Sin City, where Bruce Willis is narrating what's happening.
Everybody narrates in that movie. That's that whole movie.
That too, but that's the main thing that I think about when I think about that movie. But you see what I'm saying, though. That is the stand-in for that, because you can't go that far. You can't have Joseph Gordon-Levitt doing the voiceover, because then it's a little bit too on the nose.
What do you think about the fact that that movie and this movie came out within like a year of each other?
I don't know.
There was something in the air that we were trying to bring noir back in the early 2000s. Because literally, I think Sin City came out in 2004.
I think you're right.
And this was made in 2005, came out in 2006.
Couldn't tell you. I wasn't paying attention to a lot of film in these years. I was a little busy.
I draw attention to it. It's an interesting little coincidence is all. And you touched on it earlier, but there really weren't a ton of people in this movie that you recognized. The only other actor that you definitely knew who they were was Lucas Haas, who's kind of just shown up in a couple of other movies that we've covered on the podcast.
I know the name, but that's about it.
He was in Mars Attacks. That was the last thing we watched that he was in.
And, fucking gun to my head, I couldn't really even point him out. I didn't even know who he was until you told me. So
yeah, so he plays the Pin. And again, he is this like overly eccentric high schooler.
You know, I remember high school. There were a couple of guys that I went to school with who were kind of like this guy.
Who wore a cape and walked with a cane?
I mean, if they went a couple of steps further, they probably would have done that.
It was a little too small town for them to pull off a cape around here.
I suppose.
But yeah, he's not introduced until quite a ways into the movie, and that's where we start getting intel about the drug element of this. And yeah, he's a high schooler who is also a drug dealer. And we find out that there's this big deal going down. He had 10 bricks of, they don't even really say, was it heroin?
I have to assume that it was some kind of heroin because they talk about the drugs getting like tainted and somebody they cut it with something else, and like somebody's trying to skim stuff off the top. And I honestly think that the drug thing is such a minor thing in this entire movie. You may as well not even have it in there, but because the movie is called Brick, you kind of have to have it in there.
It's the MacGuffin, kind of.
It is.
Because it's like, why did Emily die? Why did she go missing? And what we come to find out is she wanted to be a popular kid. She was dating Brendan, Joseph's character, and she decided she wanted to be one of the in crowd. So she approached Laura and Brad to try to be in their circle. When that didn't work, she went to the Pin, and she went to Tug, and she went into that circle instead. So she kind of found herself doing drugs and skimming off the top, and like we didn't really get a very clear picture of what happened, but she was in trouble.
Yeah, and basically everything else here you have to extrapolate. You could say something to the effect of, okay, Brendan was a small-time dealer and Emily was with him when he was doing that, but then he stopped doing it, and maybe she wanted that hookup for the drugs, and she wanted to continue to be in that crowd, but then the each crowd that she ended up with was a lot more dangerous. Everything here I'm just completely extrapolating from this overall story.
But then
it doesn't really matter.
But then what we actually seem to find out is that she was having a baby. Like there's this third act reveal where she was having a baby, and she had clearly been with multiple guys in order to get her drug fix. I think that's what they're trying to give us here.
I think so, yeah.
Because Dode is shown hanging out behind like a gas station with a bunch of lackeys, and they're all doing drugs. Then there's also Tug, who they say, oh, Emily was Tug's girl. And so it becomes very unclear of like, okay, well, was she actually stealing the brick and stealing drugs and doing all that? Or was she just in the wrong place at the wrong time? Because the big reveal at the end is that Laura kind of was setting up different pieces to put her in that position, and that maybe it was actually Laura who was stealing the drugs.
Really, Laura is the crux of this entire movie, and you don't really know it because she is playing this innocent character kind of behind the scenes.
Big brown eyes, throwing herself at Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Kinda, but...
You don't trust me, do you? You don't trust me. Why don't you trust me yet?
Right.
Maybe because, bitch, you ain't trustworthy.
Yeah. So again, I wish that we got the stereotypical reveal when Joseph Gordon-Levitt is revealing everything to her on the field there, just so that I could see it all and get the summary at the very least. But because we don't get that, I have to extrapolate in my own mind. Like, you probably understand this a lot better than I do, but I have to fill in the blanks in my own mind. And us talking about this helps a little bit, but I think the only way that I'm going to really get it is to watch it again, which I would absolutely watch this again.
Yeah, and like I keep saying, I think it would really help for you and for me, because like I haven't seen it in a long time.
Sure.
But he gives it to her all at the end. This is the way I see it. She wanted in, you weren't paying attention to her, and then you saw somebody that you could put the blame on. And it was all you, Laura, and you did this and you did that. He kind of, at the end, sets everybody else up. So when he finds Emily's body, he hides it in this tunnel. But at the end of the movie, when shit goes down, he puts her body in the trunk of Tug's car and tells Brain, call the cops and say there's drugs in the trunk.
Right.
And so that's how they're going to find the drugs.
And he also leaves the gun there, which ties everything to him. And basically everybody who needs to get their comeuppance gets it Except for Laura,
Except
because
for
she
Laura.
was the one who was setting everything up from the beginning.
But what he ends up doing is stealing the last brick and stashing it in her locker.
Correct. To bring her down.
Yeah. He said at some point in the movie, what is Laura's locker number?
Yeah.
Like it's some little detail early on that doesn't come back until later. And that's why. So my assumption is in the chaos at the end where Tug has shot Dode, he's a hothead, he's the muscle, and now the Pin doesn't trust him. And everybody is like, what the fuck are we going to do?
And everybody's on edge.
Yeah, everybody's on edge. They're laying low. They know this is an explosive situation. And of course they go, it's war, because that's what it turns into in these kinds of movies. So they're going to talk it out. That doesn't happen. The brick goes missing. All the thugs start attacking each other. They kill the lights and Brendan just leaves and throws the gun in the room as you hear the Pin getting his ass kicked, screaming, help me, Brendan, help me.
Yeah.
Because he's got something going on. Like, it is an interesting character, the Pin, because he's clearly like supposed to be the least suspecting drug dealer in the history of movies, I think.
Right.
Because he's this kind of weak, nerdy guy with a cane who lives in the basement out of the sunlight. There's no fucking like windows in this room. And his mom is making him cookies, like you said. And he's the head of a giant drug ring.
But that's the thing. I don't believe that. I don't believe that this whole drug ring, as you say, is nearly as big as what you think it is, even though he finds all that cash there. That could be like his entire stash. That's not much if it's that big of a drug ring.
Okay, well, for a high schooler, any drug ring is a big drug ring.
You're not wrong. But I wanted to mention one more thing here before we start wrapping up. The thing that got me into this movie pretty much immediately. Joseph Gordon-Levitt is on the phone with somebody early on, and I can't remember the exact context, but he says something to the effect of, oh, to be a teenager with all the time in the world, the folly of youth. Where the fuck would a teenager ever say something like this except in a Rian Johnson noir crime drama?
Oh, yeah. Watching this movie, there's going to be a large swath of people that would just fucking hate this.
Absolutely.
They would not get this. They would not appreciate this. And there's a reason this wasn't like a massive, massive hit. I think this was an independent film that was funded by Rian Johnson's parents. Fun fact. And it hit the circuits at the right time and the right people saw it.
You know what this movie kind of reminds me of? Not in like the content or whatever. It kind of reminds me of The Evil Dead, in how Sam Raimi made that movie on a shoestring budget and it's just a bunch of his friends, and he did it as a passion because he loves these kinds of movies. And I think Rian Johnson did the exact same thing. And those are the people that I really want to follow. Those are the passionate filmmakers that aren't doing it for the paycheck. They're doing it because they fucking love it.
I have to get this idea out of my head. I need this vision to come to life. And I think we as film fans are very lucky that he made this movie, that his parents were so supportive that they funded largely his movie. And this is what we got. Is it perfect? I don't think it's perfect, but I do think it's really goddamn interesting.
It is impressive at the very least.
It is just also a lot. And this is not a movie you can just watch once and move on with your life. Like, I think you're going to find yourself thinking about this movie, trying to digest it, trying to go back and go, okay, so he was in the basement. Is that when he grabbed the brick and ran out the window? Or did he do that earlier? Or you just think about those cool moments like when he finds the 10th brick and Tug is there and the mirror starts swinging around and you just get that little rotating light. Or when the Pin appears in the basement in the darkness and it's just him lit a little bit from above in a sea of black. Or all the interesting fade-ins and fade-outs as the transitions happen. Or the shot of him laying on the bed looking at the ceiling fan and then all of a sudden he is imagining that he is moving and the fan is stationary. So the whole room is rotating. Like, these are things that are clearly somebody who has a vision for his movie.
He's also experimenting with how he wants to portray his movies, because the fade in, the fade out stuff was done a lot. And if I had one criticism, it would be that.
It was too much.
It was kind of too much. He did it too often. But I know what he's trying to do there, and I think this is very much a filmmaker who has a vision, who knows what he's doing, but I think his cart was just a little bit too far ahead of his horse.
That just means he was really, really ahead of his own time. That's what I think.
Yes, you're right. There's nothing wrong with what you're saying.
You mean it in a nice way.
I do.
All right, well, I think that's where we're going to leave it for Brick. I'm glad you liked this one, and I hope you do revisit it. Maybe one day I'll come home and you're just watching it without me, and that's okay.
Maybe.
But we would love to know, listeners, have you seen Brick? Gosh, I hope so, because this is a confusing movie to listen to us talk about if you've never seen it. It's a confusing movie when you have seen it.
Tug and Brick and...
Which one's Brick?
I never found that out. Who's Brick?
Who's Brick in this movie?
Pin. Wow, what a weird way to say Kingpin by just calling somebody Pin.
Don't worry about it. It's fine. But we would love to know, what did you think of this movie? Do you think it is a brilliant modern masterpiece that everybody should see? Is this woefully overrated? Tell us, neversenapod@gmail.com. We have another email from our friend Mitch in Saskatoon, who is continuing his journey of summer movie watching.
Specifically watching movies that we've covered on the show and listening to our episodes. So we thank you, Mitch.
For the most part, every once in a while, he talks about a movie that we didn't do on the show yet.
Yeah, last week he mentioned that he watched Memento, which is a movie that we had already seen, so we can't cover it. But yeah, anytime you want to talk to us about a movie that you watched and get our opinion about it, email us. I don't mind talking about stuff that I've already seen. That's the only way that we're allowed to do that on this show.
Give us an excuse to bring them up.
There you go.
But yes, Mitch sent us an email called More Catching Up. Betsy, Trent, never seen it.
That's us.
I have caught up on another 2 movies you previously covered, and I have some thoughts for you. First up, he watched About Time. What I expected to be a rom-com turned into a charming story about an adorable Tim and his problems in life. It's actually more of a father-son movie than anything. Great play on time traveling and how it affects a family. Thank you for letting me know this movie exists. Yeah, I think Trent feels the same. That
Absolutely.
I told him this movie is something we should watch.
I'm so happy that we covered that movie because it was such a surprise for me that I love that movie so much. And yeah, I'm glad you like it too.
Yeah, on the surface and what that movie actually are 2 different things.
And I feel like that movie maybe got a bad rap because it had that stereotypical feel of a rom-com.
Especially if you watch the trailer.
If you watch the trailer, even if you just look at the poster just kind of gives away the game. Like, try something different for fuck's sake.
Yeah, it's absolutely worth seeing, and you should all go watch it.
Yeah.
The next movie he watched was The Graduate.
My #1 movie that year that we watched it.
I emailed in November of 2022 mentioning I had seen parts of this. Apparently, it was just the first 5 minutes and that was it.
Okay.
I had a reaction like Trent had in that episode. This movie was hilarious and so smart. Great comedy for the 1960s. Dustin Hoffman was incredible. I'm just glad I'm going over these movies because I almost missed out on a classic. More movie reviews and comments coming. Peace out from the perpetually daylit north. From Mitcheroo.
Mitcheroo. Yeah, I sent you something recently. It was a video of a baseball game being played at midnight in Alaska where it's completely lit.
It looks like it's about, 5 o'clock. The sun is starting to go down.
Right.
But this time of year, it doesn't go down.
It's so fucked. I don't know how I could handle that. I need my darkness.
Yeah, it's wild. I don't think I could live in the land of the midnight sun.
No. But yes, The Graduate. Again, one of my favorite movies now of all time. When we watched it back in 2022, apparently, I was blown away. It ended up being my #1 movie that year. I gave it my favorite movie award that I saw for the first time that year. I was not expecting that, and I don't think you were either.
No, and I even think About Time was another one that you were like, this has to go in like my top tier at least.
It was at least the most surprising to me. But thanks again, Mitch, for sending in that email. And every time you email us, I'm really looking forward to this summer and you catching up on all our stuff because we haven't heard from you in a while. It's great.
And it's such a hodgepodge. And that's the best thing about this show is we do cover a lot of ground, guys. We cover rom-coms and classics and horror stories and westerns and noir.
And I imagine that we're not going to get a lot of people listening to this episode, Brick, because who the fuck knows what Brick is? Why would you want to go and watch Rian Johnson's first movie? You're going to go and watch the new Knives Out movie. You're going to go and watch the new Star Wars movie.
Well, I'm just going to say here now, you should go and watch Rian Johnson's first movie.
You should.
And if you have seen this one or any of his other movies, please email us, neverseenitpod@gmail.com.
Unless you're one of those dickheads out there who doesn't like that Star Wars movie that he made, fuck you.
No, you know what? If you are one of those dickheads, email us anyway, because we want to start a fight. No, because we're just interested. I like hearing why people do or do not like a movie, because sometimes I feel like I don't like a movie. The movie we watched last week was Wonder Woman, and I think you and I if you didn't listen to that episode,
Yep.
We had some thoughts. We had some problems.
I haven't thought about that movie since.
Not at all. You haven't been stewing about it or anything.
Not at all.
But I like hearing a counter opinion, because sometimes I feel like I just don't get it. Like, it is very easy, as evidence with this episode. You can watch Brick and you can sort of get it, but it's not until you give it a few viewings to really get it.
And I think the reason why I get it as much as I do is because I have watched so many movies for this show, and with you, I have an appreciation and I have some kind of a baseline knowledge of where he's coming from here.
And we're talking it out,
Yes.
which is also helping.
Exactly.
Piecing together the things you maybe missed.
If I didn't have you, I wouldn't have got it, and I might have thought this movie sucked. But it doesn't suck. You got to give it a shot.
So definitely watch that. We would also love if you go to your podcast app of choice, rate us 5 stars. And if you're feeling really friendly, you could write us a review. If you don't want to write us an email, write a review. Tell everybody else out in the universe how you enjoy our show and our crazy banter.
Or just tell us that we're awesome. We need positive
We need
reinforcement sometimes.
validation. We're fragile little people. Our egos are very small and tender, and we need you to love us.
Be nice to us.
Be nice. Look how cute we are. Can you imagine our faces?
Imagine this podcast table with us sitting across from each other with our entire collection of movies off to my left and one of our cats over in the corner.
Yeah.
You know, that's the scene that we want to set for you.
This is a fun, friendly environment where you need to validate our feelings. But yes, do that. You can also go and follow us on all the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Send us a message on there if you want. Share our posts. However you want to reach out to us is okay by us. And if you haven't heard, we also have a Patreon. Trent, we are 6 months into the year. We have 6 months worth of content over at patreon.com/neverseenitpod.
Yeah, Betsy, we do 4 other shows over on the Patreon, and for $5 a month, you can get access to not only this month's content that is just starting to come out, you get access to all 6 months that we have put out already. So go over there, check it out. Every single episode has about a 1-minute preview, so you can just kind of get a taste of what each episode is going to be about. We also put out a few extra things here and there of us just having conversations. There's some stuff out there that is just us fucking around before we start recording.
Listen, we don't just talk about movies. We have other interesting conversations as well.
Yeah.
Or just inane conversations. If you like interesting and inane conversations.
Or you just like us and you want to hear us, have a conversation just between us. Go check us out. It's fun.
Patreon.com/neverseenitpod. But that's going to do it for this week. As we said at the beginning, we're doing potpourri. We're doing a little bit of everything right now. So Trent, what are we going to be covering next week?
Well, Betsy, next week is going to be kind of hand in hand with another episode that we did last year that you really enjoyed. We are going to be doing Natural Born Killers.
Yes. The first movie you're referencing, of course, being True Romance.
Yeah.
Written by Quentin Tarantino.
This is another one written by Quentin Tarantino, but
and in his
not
mind,
directed. Yeah.
in his mind, this is kind of a continuation of the same story. That's how he initially envisioned it.
Yeah.
Ended up being completely separated out into this different movie. And neither of us has ever watched Natural Born Killers, so this is the time.
This is the time.
So come back next week for that film. Until then, this has been Never Seen It, and my name is Betsy.
My name is Trent.
We'll see you then.